This nutritional spreadsheet represents a modern cattle ration. Nutritionists balance energy, protein, and minerals down to fractions of a percentage point, designing a mathematically perfect diet. But inspect a feed bug 12 hours after that ration is delivered, and the perfection disappears. Often, all that remains is a pile of coarse, dry stems. This exposes the central paradox of cattle feeding. A ration can be correctly formulated, accurately weighed, thoroughly mixed, and delivered exactly on schedule, and still fail to provide the cattle with the intended nutrient profile. The failure occurs because cattle naturally manipulate their feed, selectively consuming preferred, grain-rich particles while pushing coarser components aside. This is known as feed sorting. As a result, the nutritional values printed on a ration sheet hold absolutely no weight if the cattle do not consume a reasonably representative physical version of that formulation. To diagnose why this happens, we must view feeding through a 4-state ration degradation flowchart. A ration transitions through 4 phases: formulated, mixed, delivered, and consumed. At every transition point, mechanical handling and behavioral variables introduce opportunities for the original nutrient profile to degrade. When coarse feed remains in the bunk, it is common to blame the cattle and dismiss sorting as an unavoidable behavioral quirk of picky eaters. That assumes the feed was perfectly uniform when the cattle found it. In reality, sorting is frequently a failure of particle physics and systems engineering. To fix the biological outcome in the animal, management must stop staring at the feed bunk and trace the mechanical inputs backward through the entire operation. The consequences of this degradation become obvious at the final consumed stage. Because the physical composition of a sorted bunk shifts over time, the cattle who eat immediately consume a vastly different diet than those who eat later. In these rumen cross-sections, early eaters on the left receive a high payload of rapidly fermentable concentrate, sharply increasing acidosis risk. Late eaters on the right fill their rumen strictly with coarse roughage, resulting in a severe energy deficit. Although both groups are eating from the exact same batch of feed, they are processing 2 wildly different diets. This drives massive performance variation across a single pen. When individual nutrient supply fluctuates daily, feed conversion rates become erratic and highly unpredictable. Feed sorting effectively forces the herd to consume multiple unintended diets, breaking the predictability of a controlled feedlot system. While cattle naturally use their muzzles and tongues to search for preferred ingredients, they can only separate those components if the physical properties of the ration allow it. The primary enabler of separation is particle size discrepancy. In this close-up, when fine, dense grains mix with excessively long forage, the heavy particles readily separate, dropping like sand through the dry stems. The engineering solution to this mechanical separation is precise moisture management. Moisture serves as a liquid binder in a total mixed ration, actively gluing smaller concentrate particles to larger forage stems, locking the matrix together. But excessive moisture breaks the system, compromising feed stability, accelerating spoilage, and creating storage failures. The extent of feed sorting, therefore, is governed by the physical engineering of the feed matrix, specifically chop length and moisture binding, rather than the taste preferences of the animal. If the physical matrix is sound but sorting still occurs, the investigation must move upstream from the bunk to the delivery vehicle. This cross-section of a feed truck in motion shows what happens during transport. Continuous vibration physically alters the mixed ration. Heavy, dense particles sink to the floor, while lightweight roughage floats to the top, causing severe stratification before the feed ever reaches the cattle. Look at the sheer length of the feed bunk in this image. If delivery speed and discharge rates are inconsistent, the highly stratified feed in the truck will be distributed unevenly, meaning cattle at the beginning receive a different mixture than those at the end. Tracing the problem back even further reveals errors at the mixing stage. An incorrect loading sequence, an overloaded batch, or simply overmixing the ration can destroy uniformity before the truck even leaves the shed. Many sorting issues originate as mechanical stratification errors inside the mixer or delivery truck. The cattle are simply reacting to a non-uniform ration that was created long before it reached the bunk. Diagnosing these errors requires objective data. Assuming the cattle simply dislike the roughage stalls real investigation and leaves mechanical flaws completely unaddressed. To prove selective consumption occurred, feedlot managers rely on the diagnostic principle of refusals. This requires a quantitative physical comparison between the feed delivered and the feed left behind. This diagram shows a particle separator using stacked tiered sieves. When sample A, the fresh ration, passes through, we see a balanced distribution across all tiers. But when sample B, the refusals, is processed, we see a massive accumulation of coarse material on the top screen. This comparison is valid only if samples are representative. A single handful scooped from one location provides statistically useless data. Managers must collect and combine material from multiple locations according to strict protocols. By physically measuring the shift in particle distribution over the feeding cycle, a manager transitions from subjective guessing to empirical proof of selective consumption. The operational rule for solving a feed failure is straightforward. Diagnose before adjusting. Do not rewrite the nutritional formula until forage chop length and moisture levels and mixing sequences are thoroughly audited. Leaving mechanical flaws unfixed carries a steep economic penalty because every pound of refused feed represents a wasted investment. In an operation of this scale, the refusals left behind represent sunken costs. They contain purchased ingredients, processing time, fuel, equipment wear, and paid labor. Minor daily waste multiplied across thousands of head of cattle quickly escalates into severe economic losses. Cattle nutrition does not stop at the spreadsheet. The intended nutrient profile must be aggressively protected through ingredient preparation, mixing, and delivery. The biological and economic success of the feedlot is determined by the ration cattle physically ingest. Every management decision must protect that specific nutrient profile from formulation all the way to the mouth of the animal.